purpose of this video is to act as a supplement to the Hangar Deck, one of our continuing education classes put forth by the Docent Council. Back in 1998, when this museum first opened, there were a lack of exhibits, and for our tours, the docents led a comprehensive Hangar Deck tour. This class is based on that tour. We are starting at the orientation area. One of the things that I have to point out is that the airplanes are continually moved around, and instead of discussing any of the aircraft, as Glenda will go over to that Skyhawk, and you will see that there is an easel or a signboard in front of the aircraft, and that explains a lot of the information you have to know. After she has done that, we have one other exhibit up here at the orientation area. It's been here for some time, is this board on the Pacific battles during World War II. A lot of World War II veterans would really enjoy looking at this. It covers all of the battles, the ships involved, and the ships sunk. We are now going to go start our tour. We will wind up over on the ladder, going down to the second deck for a safety talk. The ladder going down to the second deck is possibly the best way to get to the second deck, because you can go down here and go all the way aft. Now, the one thing we want to point out, that the Hangar Deck, this deck, is made up of two 1 1/4 inch welded plates, which makes up an armored deck of 2.5 inches. What I'm trying to point out is that when you go down the ladder, be careful that they don't hit their head on the deck as they go down. They should put their hand up on that deck and lean back a little bit. If they go down backwards, then what they should do is to lean forward. That deck will not bend, and it'll give you one heck of a headache. Okay, we're going to continue with our tour. We're going to wind up into the middle of Hangar Bay 1 and looking at several objects. Okay, we're in front of the number 1 elevator. The number 1 elevator is over here. There are 3 elevators, 1, 2, and 3. Numbers 1 and 2 are operable. The things about these elevators, it only takes them about 12 seconds to go up or to come down. They travel quite fast. The number 1 elevator is capable of lifting 46,000 pounds. The number 2 elevator, slightly less, only 36,000 pounds. There's also an information board posted by the number 1 elevator giving more facts and figures. Behind me, up into this area here where those slatted windows are, that is the conflict station, meaning it is a station that takes care of the fire suppression machinery. We will be talking on our tour about salt water, about fog foam, and about carbon dioxide and when they are used. We will talk about a conflict station when we get into Hangar Bay 2. Down at my feet, there is a well down here. Maybe you can see it, and it stops here. There is no weld, and it begins over here. So the weld has been taken off. What I'm pointing out is at one time they had a cross-deck catapult, which did not prove to be satisfactory or feasible, because when you are being catapulted off, you want to go into the wind. Well, these people were catapulted off the starboard side, over into the side over there, and they would have a crosswind. So they cut that out. By the way, there is a series of pipes over into here which happen to be the cables for this cross-deck pennant. They now are the cables for our port catapult. Okay, we're going to move into the middle of Hangar Bay 2. Okay, we're right in about the middle of Hangar Bay 2. There is a Crusader behind me, and what I want to point out, you can see it when the Crusader is missing, but over beyond where that yellow air vent is, and there's a downdraft, there is a cage there. That is for the special weapons cage. Also, below the yellow air vent, there's a basketball backboard. This deck was used for multi-reasons. They had athletic contests here, dances, ceremonies, church services, inspections. It could be used for a lot of things. If they wanted to play volleyball, they would lower the #1 elevator and they could play volleyball in the elevator pit, so it wouldn't go out there. So this deck was used for a lot of things. We're going to pan around now to show various aspects on this port side. The Admiral's ladder, right up into here. The Admiral had a space directly above there. Going over to the left, up by the overhead, is the Hornet patch. And this patch was made by Eric Phillips, one of our volunteers. You will see more of Eric's handworks as we proceed through. Down below, the purple piping with those reels. That is our jet fuel station. Jet fuel has purple piping. You will notice that, or find out that as we proceed, the piping of different colors have different meanings. Now I'm going to ask Glenda to go over to the opposite side. And we have the scoreboard. This is a replica of the original scoreboard. This was also hand painted by Eric Phillips. I think it took him something like 800 hours to do with each one of those little stencils there. Below that is the bomb elevator, hidden behind that model of the Hornet. That bomb elevator originates from the 3rd deck below, and it can go all the way up to the flight deck. Now, as we pan a little bit to the right, you'll see the part of the captain's ladder. You could see better if we were further down the hangar deck, but that's where the captain's spaces are. The captain's spaces and the admiral's spaces join together overhead on what we call the O2 level. As we go down to the bell, that's the quarterdeck, primarily where the officers would enter and exit. The enlisted would, their brow would be back by the safety brow. Going over to the right and up by the overhead, you will see 4 rectangular windows. That is the projection booth for the enlisted movies. The officers had their movies down in the wardroom. The enlisted had their film right here. We're going to go back to the separation between Hangar Bay 1 and Hangar Bay 2 now, and we will point out other items. Okay, over to our right. That right thing that comes up is a 5-inch ammo hoist when the ship replenished. They brought the projectiles aboard. Then they could put that on a belt hoist and it would go down to the magazine, which is on the 5th deck. Behind the ammo hoist, that green object, that is fog foam. Fog foam would be used for gasoline fires. You'd want to smother them. Behind that, maybe you can see the way in the corner is a red piping. That indicates salt water. And so for fire suppression, there are 3 methods. The fog foam is green, the red is salt water, and the last one for electrical fires would be the carbon dioxide bottles that you'll see a little bit later on. Above the fog foam, you'll see those gray lockers right there. Those gray lockers were used for one-size-fit-all life jackets. Beyond them is the division door. These were put on in 1953 at that conversion. Okay, above the division door, you look at this pipe. I have my laser pointer on it, and the nozzles are all pointed down. This is part of our water curtain system. There are 7 water curtains in the hangar deck. 1 back elevator 1 on each side of this set of division doors. In the middle of hangar bay 2, there's 1, and back by the second set of division doors, there are 2, and in the middle of hangar bay 3, there is another one. Okay, we are going to move back aft into hangar bay 2. In hangar bay 2, we have some roll-up curtains right here. The curtains have 4 purposes. Number 1, down for blackout purposes. Number 2, down to keep the weather out. Number 3 for ventilation. And this set right here, number 4, is to open up for our elevator number 2. I'm going to put my laser pointer on this stanchion right here and go up to the top. You will see the reel. If you were to pull this chain, there's a chain right here, that reel would move along that I-beam. So these 2 stanchions move to the right. Over to your left, the stanchions move to your left, and what you have is an opening to roll the aircraft out onto the number 2 elevator. We're going to now move to a different part in hangar bay 2 to see other various items. Over to the left as you're looking, that partition up there on the O1 level is called the hangar deck control. And here's where they have a chart with all little model airplanes, and they're all numbered. And they indicate where the planes are located or stored on the hangar deck. And as planes are moved, they move these, so they know exactly where to get various aircraft. By the way, just below that, there happens to be a series of purple pipes. Remember that these happen to be jet fuel. Also, notice the bulkhead slants down underneath the purple pipes and underneath the railings. That is part of our air ventilation system. Okay, we're going to go over to the starboard side of this and see a few more things. Over to the left up high, where those slatted windows are, that is conflag station number 2, the main conflag station. That station is manned 24 hours a day whenever there are aircraft here on the hangar deck. Going to the right, that slanted bulkhead where the Christmas wreath is hanging from is the updrafts for the forward engine room. The updrafts meaning they've taken the smoke and all of the dust and everything out from the engines. Over to the right, down low, is a board. It's called the crunch board. They would record if there were any crunches, meaning accidents of pushing aircraft around. And the idea was to try to get 1,000 hours of no crunches on there, and they probably would earn something like ice cream or that. Just to the right of it, below the no smoking sign, is the escalator that takes you up to the flight deck. All right, we're going to move back into hangar bay 3 now.
Go.
Below the fog foam sign, there is an opening. My laser pointer is on it. It is a dumb waiter. There's avionics shops up on the O2 level. And this is one way that they can go ahead and get the equipment down to install on the aircraft. As we move around over to the left, you will see the CO2 bottles. This is used for electrical fire. So for fire suppression again, salt water, fog foam, and CO2 bottles. Just to the left, you'll see that opening, and that happened to be for the theater. The theater is located under the angled flight deck. We're going to move around to the opposite side right now to pick up a few more objects. We start out with the Apollo capsule. There's information about that. And then you have the Airstream trailer, the MQF. This was actually used for Apollo 14. And then as you go more back aft, you will hit the Apollo display area, which is nice, and down below it you will see the painted footsteps. The Boy Scouts painted this, where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked to get into the Apollo trailer, the quarantine facility for Apollo 11. Okay, we're going to move back to Hangar Bay 3. All right.
Go.
We are in Hangar Bay 3. Notice these side curtains are not roll-up, but they roll to the side. They're heavy duty. In Hangar Bay 3, they use this for heavy maintenance. And so they wanted this to be dark at all times so that submarines wouldn't see any lights. Now the elevator is outboard. Back in up until 1956, the number 3 elevator was right down here, and I'm going to show you the weld where you can see it, the curvature. I have my laser pointer right here, and it goes right around. Notice the curvature, and then it goes back out. So this is in the same place as the present number 3 elevator, but it was inboard. All right, we're going to move back a little bit more to some other spaces. I remember that jet fuel is purple piping, colored piping. Here, back in that cubby hole, is just to the left of the men's head, you'll see yellow piping. That is for aviation gas, called avgas, for propeller-driven aircraft. You can also notice up on the flight deck, when you go up there, on the sides of the flight deck, there will be purple and markings on the port side, and there are yellow markings on the starboard side. This is where they could refuel the aircraft. One thing I want to point out, that over on the port side, there are a number of Essex-class carriers that have exhibits. Glenda is going to focus in, zoom in on one of the ladders, the one just aft of the simulator, and that will take you down to the USS Wasp Memorial. We have a number of different Essex-class carriers that have exhibits. We have the Franklin, the Essex, the Ticonderoga, the Wasp. There's the Randolph. Up on the 01 level, way back aft, there happened to be the Phil C. Also the Shangri-La and the Lake Champlain. We're going to be showing you some patches that Eric made in just a moment. Okay, we're going to go to another space that is of interest too. It's in the middle of this Hangar Bay 3. Okay, what I'm going to do, okay, we're in Hangar Bay 3, and currently I'm standing on the cover for the torpedo elevator. This would come up, the elevator would bring up a torpedo, it would be transported out to elevator number 3, and then go up to the flight deck. As Glenda focuses in on the deck behind the torpedo elevator, notice the rippled effect. That is caused by the fact that the hangar deck from elevator number 1 to where the torpedo elevator is, that includes the armor plating of 2.5 inches thick. Beyond that, it is not armor plating, and the vibrations of the shaft have caused the ripples in the deck. So you can tell where the armor plating has finished. I'm gonna ask her to look at the different patches that we have for the, as you can hear, there is noise. This is a working ship. Sometimes you'll have people pounding or chipping paint. Other times there will be workers walking by and discussing about something, not aware that we are filming something. So this is an amateur thing, but it should help you out. We talked about the torpedo elevator and also about the ripple effect because there's no longer armor plating from there back aft. We're going to go over onto the starboard side, up on these roll-up curtains, it may be a little glary, but you will go ahead and see the different patches that Eric Phillips, once again, made honoring some of the 24 Essex class carriers that were made. All right, we're fairly back aft on Hangar Bay 3, and what I'd like to point out is where the women's head is located. This at one time happened to be the workshop for some of the engines on the airplanes. The Apollo, which we saw, was at one time the jet engine workshop. The lady's head, that area out there, was for the radial engine workshop. Beyond the head, going down will be the CPO mess leading down to the second deck. And then way back aft is out to the fan tail. Now there's one interesting thing on the fan tail that a lot of people don't know. If you go through the door and go to your left, there happens to be what we call a sound and echo acoustic decoy, which was towed 600 feet behind the ship when there was the threat of the submarine. And the submarine, any homing torpedoes would more than likely home in on the decoy rather than the ship. Also, back aft, just before you went out to the fan tail, you go up to the O1 level. There's a series of former shops there. That's where some of the Essex class carriers will be up there, such as the Phil C and the Lake Champlain. I keep forgetting Dwight's thing. Okay, as we pan over, we're almost finished, going clear back over there, up to conflag station number 3. Notice that conflag station number 3 is on the port side, as is conflag station number 1 in Hangar Bay 1. In Hangar Bay 2, the main one, it is on the starboard side. This basically will finish all of the Hangar Deck tour. Now, another way of learning about the Hangar Deck is to go down into the flight suit mess. And on the bulkhead, there is a large blueprint of the flight deck and the hangar deck. And it is interesting to see how things were back then. I encourage you to attend as many continuing ed classes as possible. This is one method of supplementing the hangar deck tour that I usually give. By the way, down the flight suit mess, there is a 2-page handout on the hangar deck for you to keep. I hope this has been of interest and that you learned something from it, and thank you for watching.